Hello, I'm Lee, and don't you just hate it when you're playing a Goad strategy and your opponents don't have the good taste or dignity to play any creatures? Well, enter Aurelia, the Law Above, and a Trojan horse strategy where you get a creature, you get a creature, and you get a creature, and whilst everyone's killing each other with those creatures, we are quietly in the background assembling the many cards we need to put together one of the killing combos in this deck, because we're not really a Go deck at all, but we can decimate the entire table. Sounds positively illegal. The figurehead of this strategy is Aurelia, the Law Above, a 4/4 angel with a scary set of keywords in flying, vigilance and haste, meaning she hits as soon as she's on the board without sacrificing a defensive board state. But we are mostly interested in the part that states whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card, and whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia, the Law Above deals 3 damage to each of your opponents and you gain 3 life. More importantly, and interestingly to this deck builder, is the fact that there's a Praetor-like asymmetry at play. We are rewarded for being aggressive. Swing with 3, draw a card. Swing with 5, lightning helix. But if our opponents swing with 3, we still draw a card. And if they swing with 5, we do that lightning helix again. However, these pesky opponents with their fancy Voltron decks and their, oh, look at me, oops, all instants and sorcery piles, they don't have any creatures. Well, it's time to plant some evidence. If they don't have any creatures, we'll give them some, and if they don't want to attack with them, we'll make them. They'll scream entrapment as we force them to adopt soldiers and survivors they didn't want. Let's start with, ooh, horses. The archetypal Akroan horse is gifted to an opponent whose opponents then gain a 1/1 soldier during the lucky recipient's upkeep. Tharchild and his war riders create survivor tokens under opponent's control. The legendary knight through combat damage and Tharchild's war riders through a cumulative upkeep that's supposed to be a drawback. But a steady supply of creature tokens is just what we need to crack this case wide open. The War Games gives each player 3 warrior tokens which are goaded, grow during the match, and in chapter 3 we have an opportunity to pull the plug on all warriors in play. Bonus points if you're playing against changelings or Najeela. And then there's Hunted Dragon, who's part of the Hunted cycle and gifts 3 2/2 white knights to a lucky/doomed opponent. Life of the party synergy with this deck is criminally good. It's pumped by the number of creatures its owner controls, and everyone gets a copy as it enters. Great when we are helping them assemble their team. Day of Dragons is the perfect, remember that thing you did to me? Well, you don't get a dragon now, but everybody else does. Combat Calligrapher feels like a risk. They die and those inklings can come for our life total. But let's move on to the reasons why any creature fielded by opponents, including the ones we gifted them, won't be able to trespass on our side of the board. We have Goad and we have damage redirection, and both of those will keep us alive in the early and mid game, but the damage redirection is actually part of our late game win con. Goad All-Stars include Taunt from the Rampart, which was number 15 in my top 15 cards of 2023, and Disrupt Decorum that keep our enemies at each other's throats. As we're handing out tokens, Bailoff is key to not only those tokens staying away, but also pickpocketing some treasures when the goaded creatures die. War Cadence and Bedlam combined with Death's Kiss wave on through traffic that's heading towards our opponents, and that traffic hits twice as hard, with War Cadence letting us abuse the this turn red tape on any turn to make blocking a costly endeavour. Lorine the Diversion serves 2 functions, goading creatures, but later we will see that limiting the amount of creatures we have on our side of the board through sacrificing them is going to keep us alive. Our damage redirection strategy involves creatures that will take a bullet for your life total. 7 key cards have the words, if damage is dealt to you, deal it to this creature instead. Protector of the Crown gives us the monarchy. Palisade Giant protects permanents and us. Saving Grace enchants a creature at flash speed for a 1-time pseudo fog-like effect and a bonus to its toughness to help it through. Pariah's Shield, Pariah, Gideon's Sacrifice, they all take the sting out of us being attacked, but what happens if we put this effect on a creature that can redirect damage? Brash Taunter is the pinball machine of the deck. Redirect damage to him, watch him send it elsewhere, and all while being indestructible. Boris Reckoner and Cold Hauler Swine inhabit this I am rubber, you are glue style of batting the damage away, and they don't have to die with cards like Boris Charm, Ephemeral Shields, and Valorous Stance to make them indestructible. I've also included the fearsome Phyrexian Vindicator, who prevents the damage and then deals that much damage on. It's here until those 4 white pips prove too difficult to cast. And as it seems all the parts of our deck that do something in the early and mid game are part of our late win con, let's have a look at the removal, which is also a big part of keeping us safe in the early and mid game, but also a huge part of our late game win con. Blasphemous Axe, Star of Extinction and Chain Reaction are 3 of 6 board wipe damage dealing spells. They're backed up by destroy effects like Descent of the Dragons and Mog Infestation, where you can destroy problematic creatures and replace them with vanilla 4/4 dragons or 2 1/1 goblins per destroyed threats, and then goad those newly assembled throngs of creatures into combat. Have you cracked the case? Why are we giving these creatures away to our opponents? Within all these cards I've mentioned, I have Kaiser Soze, our ultimate game-winning plan to destroy the entire table. Cast 1 of the damage-dealing spells on a board filled with gift-wrap creatures alongside a repercussion, and whatever damage is dealt to those creatures is dealt to their controllers. Doesn't take a criminal genius to see that multiples of 13 means lead shoes and a trip to the bottom of the lake for our opponents. Hopefully we've been sacking our own creatures with Lorraine to avoid taking the brunt of that damage, as even though we control repercussion and can order the stack so everyone dies first, lots of 13 flying at our life total sounds pretty final to me. But wait, what if we still have some of our other co-conspirators out? Thankfully, if we have Brash Taunter with Gideon's Sacrifice and a spell that deals damage to each creature, all the damage to all your creatures is redirected to Taunter, who Tommy guns out 13 loads of bullets per trigger at opponents' faces. Or have damage dealt to Brash Taunter enchanted with Pariah and repercussion in play for an infinite damage loop that says ta-ta to the table. Or let's make Protector of the Crown indestructible, cast Arc Bond on it, deal a little damage to it, and then we have infinite damage. This is just the tip of the smoking gun. If we have a permanent that wants to be hit, that has or can be made indestructible, and we can redirect damage to it and then deal massive damage that heads its way, we end the game. And the awesome part is it has so many moving parts, it just feels really well earned. Oh, also enjoy the maths that happens when you've got Taralf, God of Fury. He says whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Taralf deals damage equal to that excess to any target other than that permanent. So Taralf will see the opponent's creatures being dealt damage, maybe from Star of Extinction, and if that damage ends up being excess damage, he will trigger, and it doesn't matter even if Taralf will be dying at the same time as those other creatures, he's going to start sending damage all over the place to other targets. And then we have Gisela too, who doubles up as a double damage dealer and also works for us as damage prevention. Just in case you've had to use your mass removal or one of these redirection creatures early, I've put in another couple of win cons which are a little bit risky but huge amounts of fun, and they include a coat of arms and a crescendo of war to support your goad strategy. They're both high risk. Make sure you can defend, redirect, goad, as they'll make everything stupidly big. And also there's an Angel's Trumpet in the deck which encourages people to attack as they can keep up their blockers, and also deals a ton of damage with all those unwanted orphans we left on our opponent's doorsteps. So I made a video about ranking my own decks, and the video's message was all about thinking about other players and their experience, one of them being not to gum up the board and waste everyone's time, and also not to take out one opponent too early. And I would give this deck a C- because although I did take out a horrible combo with Wheel of Misfortune, it tends to take out the entire board, so no one's sitting around having to do something else whilst everyone else battles it out. And in terms of gumming up the board, you are goading those creature tokens, so they're actually doing something. So in a way, you are moving the game along. Maybe a C+ for this deck. Love the super sleek design of this Boros Legend, who's bringing back the battalion theme from Gatecrash, where it was all about the amount of creatures attacking and an effect triggering from that. Should be quite a lot of fun to play, because at the end of the day, if you can pull off one of these combos, you deserve a round of applause and a golden handshake from your opponents. Let me know if that happens if you decide to build it. If you've enjoyed this humble free content today and you would like to see more, a like and subscribe would mean the world to me. Plenty more Karlov Manor content on the way, but until then, I've been Lee, and this has been MTG Specs.